Welcome, moonbeams of mayhem. This is Luna-Tics, where mental health, physical health, and the metaphysical collide. I'm Aurora, and today I wanted to start at the beginning, not with every detail of my story, but with why this podcast exists at all. So, this is the very first episode. I'll be the only host today, though I do plan on having co hosts in the future. If that sounds like something you would like to do, let me know. We can either co host in person, or there are many ways that you can help host. The other thing is, we do have the Luna-Tics hotline that you can text at any time. But if you would like to have your question or text featured, you can either drop a line in the chat on Twitch or YouTube, or message me on Substack, or the hotline is 786-588 Luna, LUNA. So you're welcome to text that at any time. I will probably, if it's an emergency, I always like to make sure that you guys have the information for emergencies, besides 911, obviously, but 988 is the mental health emergency line. So if there's an emergency, let's definitely go that route first. But for support or for adding your own perspective or content to this podcast, you can text that number. Once again, that number is 788. And I lost it already. And it's not 788. Sorry. 786-588 Luna. I also have it on the banner on the stream. Right now, I have the stream currently going. I won't necessarily refer to my stream very often, but just so you know, I'm just trying out a few different ways on how I want to approach this podcast. I help out with some other podcasting type things, and like theirs is more of a live chat. And not that I won't be popping into chat to see if anyone's been sending any information, but otherwise, especially this first episode, it's really about me just recording what I need to record and getting it out to you, because I have been dragging my feet and I've had really good reasons, but pretty soon you have pretty good reasons every week. And that gets frustrating. It gets frustrating for the people in your life. And I mean, it's frustrating for you. Hopefully, most people in your life understand that when you have mental health or physical health, AKA if you're a spoonie, shout out to all the spoonies. It adds a lot of different layers to your life, which is obviously one reason why I wanted to start the podcast. Excuse me. So who is this for? Well, really, I mean, the space is for anyone, as long as you come with an open mind, a loving heart, and not that we won't get crass at times or chaotic or won't get heated even, possibly. I don't know. It depends on the topic. It depends on who we're chatting with. But the overall theme is to be able to come back to at least that equilibrium back at the bottom, because sometimes that's what it is about. It's not even about finding the good, even though that's very important, and having good things happen and being happy, very important. However, just stabilizing sometimes can be hard enough on its own. So anyways, this is really just for anyone, especially if you're trying to make meaning out of messy human lives. You don't have to be a spoonie, but chances are if you gravitated towards this podcast, you either are one and have some kind of mental health or physical health challenge, and or you have people in your life, because let's face it, most of us are dealing with stuff out there, and most people I talk to have had trauma. So And then when I tell my story, or multiple stories, but my real big one, like people are always like, oh, it's nothing like what you went through. And it's like, no, no, no. That's one reason why I don't want this podcast to just be concentrated on me. I do plan on writing a book. I've been thinking this through, but I'm hoping this podcast will actually help feed that too. So that way, this podcast can be more about us as a community. Over on, I'm not going to plug myself too much, but I own Aurora Moon Tarot. I do tarot readings, oracle readings. I'm a Reiki master, a death doula. Yeah, I have lots of skill sets, and I've been variety, gaming. So any cozy or Pokemon, that kind of thing. So really, I have lots of, things in the fire right now, and I'm just trying to see what'll stick and what people need and want. Sorry, I just went on a tangent. Go figure. But that's one reason why we're here. It's just harder when it's just me because I am an only child, so I definitely can go on a tangent on my own, but I'm not sure you necessarily want that. So yeah, this is definitely a show for anyone who's navigating mental health, chronic stress, illness, identity shifts, because we always are evolving and hopefully leveling up, and or I don't want to say better, because I think it's important for people to love ourselves at every age, because there are reasons why we behave and do what we do, and some of the things we've gone through, we have part ownership in. And some of the things that have happened, we don't have as much ownership in. And so we need a safe space that we can talk about them. So yes, we're looking at real life, not perfection. I am big in transparency. Doesn't mean that I have to share everything about my life or that you have to share everything about your life. We are still individuals. We still have our own personal boundaries. But I also like to try to be as transparent as possible, for many reasons. But the biggest thing is, uh, every time I tried figuring out what my let's just even say my decorating theme is always very eclectic. I'm very Scorpio, so we're gonna go back on that. I can kind of start back and give you the whole story. So we'll start with the fact that I was born on a lucky 13, November 13th. I'm a Scorpio, but I'm also a Virgo moon. So that means that internally I am just always wanting things to be ordered and just, figured out so that there's not as much chaos in the head, right? I'm very neurotypical, or not neurotypical, neurodivergent that way, in the sense that I want order. I want, I love things to be ordered. Labeling things, all of those things. When I had all 4 kiddos, name labels on everything. And then my rising sign is Sagittarius. So it's quite a unique combination. I don't mind it, but I'm sure, like most combinations, there's definitely things that can be tricky when having relationships. And so if you're into that type of thing, but you don't know what all of your signs are, you can drop a message and I can help you with that. Otherwise, if you want to, let us know what your signs are, then we, especially as we start to get to know each other. So this will be kind of a co-stream in the sense that there'll be this podcast. I was fine, and now I can't talk. So this would be one of the reasons why I haven't started the podcast yet, because I want to perfect it, and I know it's not going to. So we're just recording it, and then we're going to put it out there, and hopefully you'll listen to it. Anyways, I digress. Going back to what I was doing. So Why did I start this podcast? Well, originally I started a podcast called Balancing Spoons back before my trauma, and it just never got off the ground. I'm sure it's for many of the same reasons why I haven't started this podcast. Obviously, different layers now. I also was planning on having a co host permanently, but things just aren't working that way right now. And maybe that will change, and that's fine too. But for now, I just really felt like this is important to get out there. It's important to get out there because I feel like mental health is important, physical health is important, support within all of that realm is important. And then I do love to lean on the metaphysical. It is so fun. But what I like about it, and one of the big reasons why I like to talk about this combination, is because I do like to explain some of the scientific basis behind some of the metaphysical things. That's one of the biggest compliments, I'd say, that I get from a lot of people when I read cards for them, like tarot or oracle cards. Especially ones that have never had one, or they have a preconceived notion, or they have and it's been way different. And they always comment that they like that they somehow they got more out of it, or they understood it better, or I don't really know how to explain it, but basically just like, hey, I didn't really believe, and now that made way more sense. And what it comes back to, and a lot of times I'll explain it to them, is I want it to be a conversation, much like this podcast, which is why I have a stream going so that you can go ahead, which reminds me, I should probably pop over there just to make sure, which I won't be necessarily announcing every time I do that, but otherwise that will really chop up this podcast, and I'm not trying to do that. Anyways, but yeah, I'll mostly concentrate on like whatever comes in right now, unless I happen to catch it and want to talk about it while I'm recording right now. Great. Otherwise, I'll record this, I'll put it out, and then I'll still be in the podcast shuttle with the hotline number up and just chatting up until probably close to 3 o'clock, and then Central Time. And then what else was I going to say? I forgot already. You'll find that a lot too, which is another reason why I wanted to co-host. I have notes and I still knew I was going to be like, I used to have a wonderful memory. So if you knew me from once upon a time, you knew that. And now I really struggle. So I basically going back to tarot readings, is that I kept coming back to the fact that I was like, this is about us having a conversation. This is about themes, cycles, patterns, where you're at in things. Some things match, some things don't. It's more about almost like unlocking thoughts or ideas in your own head. And I do use tarot basic meanings, the traditional meanings. But I also, depending on the deck, I like to use very intuitive based on the atmosphere during the reading, previous or, future cards pulled, all those things. And the big thing is the other person's reaction to the cards, especially the pictures, because that will unlock a lot. But anyways, I'm not going to go on and on about that. That's just kind of my business that I've been trying to jumpstart again. I had tried, before my trauma. And then I kind of had sort of tried again right after it, and it was just too much. I really want to do things consistently, because I know that when I show up consistently is how I will reach more people to help. And so kind of going back to why I started this podcast is we need these conversations, and mental health is becoming more destigmatized. So I have quite a bit of, experience. Both I have a background in psychology, counseling psychology. I've actually worked as like a Head Start teacher and employment officer and taught job skills classes. Like in a previous life, I was doing the damn thing. And don't get me wrong, I went through my first really bad bout of depression when I was a teenager. And back then, it was a lot more stigmatized. And I don't think parents knew as much what to do. Uh, I took it upon myself. I'm sure that's one reason why I went into psychology, because I'm always just trying to figure out the why. Why do people do that? And it's not so much, it's so I know how to move with them. You know, sometimes I'm just trying to flow through life like a river. Like I'm such a water sign. And the waves are going to get real rough at times. And you can weather them, but during the calm times, you want to know what to kind of be prepared for or expecting. And when you've had trauma like I have, your system is always activated. And my system was already always activated before that. So, yes. But kind of going back a little more, yes, I have one biological daughter who is just the best. She's just the best, and that's you'll end up hearing more either from her or about her, depending on how much she wants to be talked about. I don't, I really want to be also respectful of the people in my life, and only, yeah, giving information that's appropriate or wanted. I currently live in Minneapolis, and so that was another reason why this podcast took so long, is because it was a rough winter. I'm not going to get super political, though on my stream I will, so it's not completely off the table. It's just I have very strong feelings about politics, just like most of you, and especially right now. And I obviously want a safe space for people to be able to talk about all that, but it also has to be a safe space for everyone. So we're going to be real careful about that. But yeah, so I have all this knowledge, and I remember it was about a year before my trauma. I just remember thinking about, and I don't know why I always forget her name. So if you remember it, drop it, either text it on the hotline or drop it in chat or something. But I always forget what her name is in The Stand. But it's like, now I got to look it up. I shouldn't do that while I'm recording. But anyways, like just about any book or story where you see this like wise old woman and people just are drawn to her and like, wow, she knows her shit. Like, holy, like how did she get there? Like that's just magic how wise she is. Well, one, I've always been told I'm wise beyond my years. Like I said, I'm an only child, I'm not going to go on and on about it, but I mean, I was in different advanced placement classes, things like that. So, I mean, I learned it once upon a time. Like, I wasn't a slouch or anything. Not that, you grow up and you learn. There's a lot of things that are important, but in the end, it's how you treat people. So whether you look a certain way or whether you're high intelligence, low intelligence, all these different things. It just, in the end, it really doesn't matter. It's how do you treat people and are you happy? And if you can say yes to both those things, then I try not to judge how you look or what you do for a living or what your IQ is or anything like that. I think it's easy to make judgment. And that's another reason why I want this podcast. I want a safe space where we can talk about that kind of stuff, because we are going to have judgments in life. Even if you don't have trauma or other mental health things that you're worried about, the fact is, we are genetically made to make gut decisions, and to judge others. It was once upon a time, it was much more important for our physical safety. Well, I mean, I guess depending where you live, it probably still is. You know what I mean? It's changed over time. And so, yeah, we need a safe space where we can voice some of those ugly thoughts and feelings so we can work through some of them. I think sometimes we're also afraid to admit certain thoughts or feelings because it's like, what will people think of me? And then most of the time you find out a lot of people thought that too. Or you initially think something and then you learn more information and you're like, I can't believe I thought that. Oh, that's part of the messy part about being a human. So, yet another reason why we're here. And then right before the pandemic, my life definitely shifted. It's a major trauma, and I'm sure I will go into it more and more, and I'm definitely open about it completely. Um, I'm still weighing out how deep to get in the book because if people want details within reason, but I also am not looking to traumatize people. This isn't like a guess what. Um, but it just really goes to show that anyone, um, anyone can be struggling with mental health and have a break and have something happen. We'll put it that way. But my just trigger warning here. My husband at the time, so we were still married, but we were separated, and he was going to be moving out of state. And I thought he was coming back to finish packing his things, but he had a gun with him, and it resulted in him dying by suicide in front of me. He spared me though. And so, yeah, there's a lot of layers there. And like other weird layers, like the fact that I had to make arrangements because I was still his wife, even though we were separated. And like, yeah, a lot of things. Or the fact that that was the only father that my child had known for 9 years, and he was a pretty good father. So when I talk about my past, whether it be this or other people too, I usually can see the human in them and I can see how things unraveled. Sometimes it's not till after the fact, of course, but this was definitely something that I did not think would ever happen, though. I had people assume that it meant that I was an abused wife, and I wasn't. That wasn't why. I was just very unhappy for a few years, and nobody was making changes, not just him, but like it just, we weren't, sometimes after a few years, you go, okay, I can't do this anymore. So it wasn't even, yeah. But after that many years in a marriage or longer, because I know people, my parents were together 40 years before they got a divorce. So yeah, everybody's got their story. And I think that's how I'll go into it for now, just because once you start, it just kind of keeps going. And this isn't meant to be like a shock factor or attention. It's that energy was created. And going back to, like I said, that metaphysical, I like to talk about how science can be backed in some things. Energy is created. And so when you create that energy, it's like you can either keep creating energy that's like it and it will build, or you got to create kind of the opposite energy and help heal it or something. So yeah, that's a big reason why I want to write a book. I want it to be healing for me, but most of all, I don't want any of this to be in vain. I don't want his passing to be in vain. I've lost friends over it. I mean, maybe not lost, but you lose people directly, indirectly. Yeah, there's a lot of nuances. Anyway, so that's kind of my backstory. Since then, I've moved. Oh my gosh. How many times was it? 6 times, 5 times? I don't know. It's been about I haven't stayed for more than 1 year in one spot since then, and neither has my child, which has been very hard on both of us. But when you try to provide a stable home for your kiddo, and she's 18 now, so it's not as big of a concern, but it still is. It's still my responsibility. And even if it wasn't my responsibility, I'm just naturally a nurturer and want the best for her and everybody else in my life. So yeah, I think that is probably it for my background. We've been moving. Right now we're in Minneapolis. I think we're staying in this area, though there are a few things kind of up in the air that I'm currently figuring out. But chances are I'll be staying in this area and hopefully get to really start connecting with some of the local people. If we can get some people on the podcast, that'd be great. That'd be a lot of fun. Oh yeah, and before I end up closing out though, we're going to talk about a few things. So some key core ideas that we're going to be concentrating on. Mind, body, and intuition are connected. That healing isn't linear. Isn't that like one of the most frustrating parts? Because you get ahead or you think you're ahead and then yeah. And that all of these things don't exist in separate boxes, like a Venn diagram of chaos, like in trying to see where everything overlaps and how you balance them is almost impossible at times, it seems. As for the tone or approach, honest. I like I said, transparent and honest. I don't want to be preachy. This isn't clinical advice. So even though I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and theology, this isn't the spot where you come if you need a therapist. I would love to help you find one if you need that, extra support. But aside from that, this is really meant to be more supportive and a group. Very grounded, but also with a spiritual, obviously, layer. And humor is definitely welcome. There's definitely be times where it's dark humor. We'll try to keep it balanced so that it doesn't get too dark. But, that's where you guys start adding comments and, things like that. Let me know what it is you like, what it is you don't like, so we can adjust a little. Though, in the end, we're also going to produce the show that we see in our heads. And I say we because eventually I'll have other co-hosts, not calling myself we. Well, I could. So some of the other topics some of the topics we're going to be looking at upcoming would be mental health and living in that survival mode, because I know both because I've lived survival, but also because I try to put that lens on when I see other people and I wonder, are they being this way because they're assholes, or are they being this way because they're in survival mode? Now, does that mean they should continue to be an asshole? No. When I'm trying to figure out the why, it's not for like letting people off the hook if it's something that they need to follow through with. Same with me. Obviously, chronic illness, body changes, especially for us women, especially for us spoonies, identity shifts, because as we get older, we do change. We go into different phases in our life. Relationships, obviously, relationships are challenging, both romantically and just regular not every day, but just regular A relationship with anyone takes a lot of effort, which is one reason why I've been focusing on my business and trying to connect that way. I know most people in my life probably don't want to connect this way, but it's the best efficient way for me to do it right now because I don't always have the spoons. And phone calls are so hard for me, both anxiety and just they wipe my spoons right out because I want to be present. I want to give you a full, thoughtful conversation, not just me, yeah, yeah, okay, well, yeah, that sounds nice, you know? And so, because of that, I want to make sure I have the energy available. Let's see. Spirituality, tarot, intuition, using them as tools, how to rebuild life, especially after trauma. But really, you don't have to have trauma to be able to come and uh, get something from this. So, if any part of this feels familiar, then you're in the right place. You don't have to have it all figured out to be here. And honestly, that's kind of the point. We're going to explore the chaos together. If you want to keep the conversation going, the Aurora Moon Cafe is always open when I have the stream going. When the stream's not going, we do have a Discord. And then right now, I will still be live on Twitch and YouTube until 3 p.m. If you want to text the hotline, 786 588 LUNA, Luna. So you can do that, or you can go chat. Just let me know what kind of first, the first question is what topics do you want to cover and which one should we cover first? Like, let's start brainstorming that because I have a long list, but I don't have to do any of them first. And like I said, if you would like to help co-host, let me know. So, in regards, thank you, thank you. This episode has been a doorway, and so I've been trying to not consider it a whole house. This is just the invitation, and hopefully this will resonate with you and will grow, not because I'm looking for acknowledgement or I'm trying to gain more followers so that I can do more good. It's more about that. If I can make a living at this, great, I will. And if I can't, then I want it to be a passion project where I am helping others. Kind of like my daughter and I are both master naturalists here in Minnesota. We went through a training. And so kind of like I approach nature too. I just want to care for it. And one of my favorite quotes is to leave people better than you found them. And I've always added to the back of that and say, and if you can't, try not to leave them worse. And there will be times you accidentally hurt people, but that's one reason why we try to be so mindful. It takes a lot of energy to be mindful. Anyway, so we are going to wrap up now. Thank you for joining me. Finally, we get an episode out, and now I got to follow up with more. So please leave a review. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you want to hear. I'm going to try to have one out once a week, but also I'm the type who, during the winter, I tried doing Reiki on TikTok every night. After a few weeks, I was burnt out. So I'm going to try to be super consistent, though. And this is definitely a priority right now. But also, it's going to be nice out soon. Okay. Thank you. Whether you consider yourself a lunatic or a moonbeam over on my stream, or maybe you're both. Maybe you're a spoonie. You're all three. So welcome to the Luna-Tics podcast. We'll see you next time.